Welcome to episode number 60 of the Fitness Hippie podcast. I'm your host as always, Mark Torres, and in today's episode, I love it when you call me Manolo.
Pull that shit, waggle that shit, wiggle that shit. You don't hit the ball though, man. You smack in the sand, and that's it.
Oh my God, you made it. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And that's it.
Over the past couple weeks, this Instagram page called Manolo Teaches Golf has absolutely exploded on Instagram. Obviously, it's a dude named Manolo, and he teaches people how to play golf. And I think he posted a video. I think his page is relatively new. He posted a video, and it got reposted by a different Instagram page, a golf Instagram page with a big following, and kind of from there went viral. I don't know exactly how many followers he started off with, but as of the recording of this podcast, he has nearly 400,000 followers on Instagram, seemingly overnight. I'm sure it happened over a couple of days, maybe like a week or so. But I'm assuming that Manolo's life is very much so different now than when it was a few months ago. He was just in Miami playing a golf tournament with Michelob Ultra. I'm sure he got paid for it. Manolo's out here living his best life. It's an incredible thing. But I think the thing that's most peculiar about this explosion in Manolo's popularity is the nature of Manolo's golf tips. I think a big part of the reason he exploded is he's a hilarious dude. His humor is definitely kind of the X factor for him. He's a funny guy. People gravitate towards funny, towards laughs, towards humor. So I think that's a big part of why he got to be so popular so quickly. But the nature of Manolo's tips are very, very basic and beginner tips. They're very far from being advanced tips. Like just a few weeks ago, Manolo posted a video explaining what the different tee boxes are in golf. If you've never golfed before, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But on any particular golf course, on a particular hole, the first shot that you hit is from a tee box. Depending on the golf course that you go to, there might be 3 or 4 different tee boxes on one single hole. Typically, the farthest tee box back is the blue tees. That's for your more advanced players, people that hit it far. It's farthest away from the hole, so it's the most hard tee box to hit from. So that's why it's reserved for the best players. A little farther up is the white tees. That's for your more amateur players, people who can play golf. They're not the greatest at it, but they can hit the ball. If they get a hold of one, it's great, but they're not like the best players on the planet. And then typically all the way at the front is what is traditionally called the senior or the ladies tee, but it's really reserved for anybody who is just brand new at golf. Probably won't hit it that far. It's the closest hole or the closest tee box to the hole, so it's the shortest distance. So it is a tee box for beginners. And then depending on the golf course you go to, there might be a fourth one, but those are the main 3. That was literally the entire video that Manolo put out. That would be the fitness equivalent of me walking around the gym and saying, hey, this is a dumbbell. This dumbbell has a handle. These 2 things on the side make it so that it weighs the amount of weight that this number says on the side. Like, it's that basic. It's literally explaining equipment. So it's a very, very basic tip. And you would figure that somebody that goes viral the way that Manolo did from 0 to 60 overnight, like almost 400,000 followers, would be a person who came up with like these revolutionary ideas, maybe a revolutionary product, maybe a revolutionary way of, if we're talking about golf, of like maybe teaching golf, or maybe a different technique that nobody's ever seen before, something new. That would be something that would blow up that quickly. But no, Manolo's just out here giving basic tips. And I think part of it is the fact that there's a huge relatability factor to Manolo. I think golf as a general, as a whole, is like viewed as this elitist game. It's a game reserved for rich white men. And Manolo's a Hispanic dude with an accent who's cursing on the golf course. So there's a huge relatability factor to Manolo that people probably gravitate towards. Even people that don't golf can watch a Manolo video and laugh at it because he's funny and he's relatable. So I think that's a big part of why he also got to be really popular and really famous. But I think the thing that Manolo did really well, whether or not he did this consciously or subconsciously, whether it's on purpose or it was a happy accident, is Manolo realized and tapped into the fact that most people that play golf are beginners. 99.99% of people on the planet that play golf are beginner golfers. There are people that play on the PGA Tour that is like 0.0000001% or something like that. It's a very small number. And then there's other smaller tours that are technically professional golf, but that's also a very, very small group of people. And then you've got some people that are scratch golfers. A scratch golfer is somebody who shoots par consistently. For those of you guys who do not golf, think about putt-putt. Like most of those holes are like par threes. So if you finish the hole in 3 strokes, that is par. If you're shooting over par, you may be finish the hole in like 5 or 6 strokes. But if you're shooting threes consistently and that's the par of the hole, you're a scratch golfer. That's next to impossible to do. That's also a very small percentage. People that play in the PGA Tour, they typically shoot under par consistently. So the amount of people that are actually really good at golf and that are advanced golfers is a tiny fucking number. Everybody else, I don't care how much money you spend on golf, how often you go, what kind of clubs you have, what kind of bag you have, what kind of equipment, the score that you score, unless you're part of that very small group, you're probably a beginner golfer. So I think Manolo tapped into that, and he said these people don't need these advanced techniques and these advanced tips. Unless you're in that elite level group of golfers, you're probably not worried about the wind direction when you're hitting a shot. You're probably not worried about the shape of the shot that you're trying to hit. You're not worried about trying to fade or draw the ball, like trying to hit the ball right to left or left to right, depending on the hole shape. You're not worried about that. You're not worried about the shade of green of the grass on the putting green that very well may indicate which way the putt is going to break when you hit it. You're not worried about any of those things unless you're an advanced golfer. If you're a beginner golfer, you're worried about harping on the basics, harping on the fundamentals, making good contact with the ball, and having just general good swing mechanics. As a beginner, if you can continually harp on those basics and those fundamentals, that is going to be the thing that improves your golf game. Is it going to get you to be a scratch golfer? No, that's not in the cards for many of us out there. It's extremely hard to be a scratch golfer, but focusing on the fundamentals and the basics is going to help improve your golf game. And then eventually down the line, once you feel like you've mastered the basics, and it's going to take a long time, then you can start to implement these different advanced techniques. That might take you to the next level. But you have a long runway with the basics and the fundamentals before you get to the point where you need to advance. I think once you start to implement advanced techniques too early, that's where things can get difficult. You can focus on the basics for so long, still sticking with golf, and you have a bunch of good scores in a row. Let's say you go out 4 weeks in a row, you have some really great scores. You're focusing on the fundamentals and the basics, but you're still not scoring to the point where like you're a scratch golfer. They're good scores for you, but they're not good scores like in terms of golf terms, let's say. Once you get to that point, you might be like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to start to try these different advanced techniques. I'm going to try to fade the ball, draw the ball, pick my shape, the shape of the shot that I want to hit, and all these things. And that's where things can get rocky for you, because then you start to lose the basics that you worked on for so long. All of a sudden, all the good scores that you had are going away because you're pulling balls into the woods, you're slicing them the other way. It's a whole thing. You try to advance far too early. So once you start to implement these advanced techniques way too early, that's where you're making your job as a golfer much more difficult. And it's the same exact thing that happens in fitness. Most people that walk into a gym are beginner lifters. If you are a person who is competing for something, in something that's athletic, if somehow fitness is very tightly interwoven into your life, maybe I say bodybuilder all the time, power lifters all the time, but maybe you're a person who runs competitive obstacle races, right? Tough Mudder has these competitive heats, Spartan Race competitive heats, something like that. Maybe you're an athlete. Maybe you're a professional athlete. Not like some weekend warrior going out and shooting hoops. You're like somebody who's playing for money. If you're in one of those circumstances, or you have some other circumstance where fitness is very tightly interwoven into your life, you're probably a beginner lifter. Like I said, I don't care how many times you're in the gym. I don't care how much you know about fitness, how much money you spend on supplements a month, all those different things. None of that constitutes you being an advanced or intermediate lifter. You're probably still a beginner. And that's a good thing. That's a fantastic thing, because when you're a beginner, you can make gains easily. Not easily, but you can make gains much more simpler, I should say, than if you were to try to implement these advanced techniques. So as a beginner lifter, if you can focus on the fundamentals and the basics, that is going to take you so much farther than if you try to do too much way too quickly. Even myself as a personal trainer, sometimes I get so excited about maybe a client's progress and what I see them doing that I try to advance them too quickly myself. I get caught up in that moment. A client does really well doing push-ups. All of a sudden, I have them doing a harder push-up variation when they haven't really actually mastered regular push-ups. I got too quickly excited about their progress that I started asking too much of them too quickly. Something I get caught up in. And I think part of it is the fact that I never want a client to get bored. Once somebody gets bored, you lost them, right? I'm the kind of person where I watch a movie, and if you don't grab me within the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm zoning out. I'm probably going to turn the movie off, but if I'm forced to watch the movie, I'm going to watch it begrudgingly, and I'm going to maybe not pay too much attention. So for something like working out, where it's not something that people love to do, if you lose somebody's attention and you get bored, that person's gone, right? And this is me talking as a personal trainer. Obviously, if it's you, then you get bored, you're probably out of there. It's the same thing that happens. So I think it's very easy to overlook the fundamentals, overlook the basics to try to progress far too quickly. And that's where things can get a little bit hairy and a little bit dicey. You're making it much more difficult for yourself to stick with something that should be much simpler, right? So when I talk about the basics and the fundamentals, I mean like working out consistently. Even if that's 1 or 2 times per week, it's going to be dependent on your schedule. If you can work out consistently, that's a great fundamental thing to really focus on. If you can focus on compound lifts, if you can focus on chest press, row, shoulder press, pull up, pull down, squat, deadlift, hip hinge, lunge, those things, those are all great fundamental compound lifts that are going to help you make a ton of progress over a long period of time. Things like bicep curls and tricep extensions and calf raises and even core workouts to a certain extent, they're all fluff, right? There are things that you can do. There are things that are probably great to do, but if you're trying to do too much of that and neglecting the compound lifts, you're going to make progress, but you're not going to make the progress maybe that you think you'll make because those other things have a hierarchy of higher importance than the fluff exercises. Something as simple as like just trying to implement more whole foods into your diet. It might not be that the majority of your diet right now is whole foods because that's something that you'll have to work towards, especially if you're very far on the other end of the spectrum, but just trying to add a little bit of more whole foods into your diet every week. Like keep it really simple. Focusing on your calories. Over time, that's something that you'll start to implement. Keep it really simple. Don't try to, unless you feel like you have a very specific reason to try a specific diet, keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, all those things, try to keep it as simple as possible. Try to really harp on the basics and the fundamentals, and that's going to help you get a long way to your fitness goals. That might take you all the way. So don't feel the need to try to advance far too quickly. If you can hold on to these beginner gains for as long as you possibly can, that is the absolute best place to be. I've never heard of anybody say, you know what, I want more work. I want to make things more difficult on myself, especially for something like working out. So I think Manolo is a great muse for like harping on the basics, harping on the beginner tips, and really just focusing on the most basic fundamental things of whatever you're trying to do. I'm talking about fitness on this podcast, but it could be anything else. Really focusing on the basics and the fundamentals. Once you've truly mastered those things, and it's going to take a long time, there's going to be people that go to the gym and they never get out of that beginner stage. That doesn't mean that they're not getting fit. That doesn't mean that they're not being more healthy. That doesn't mean that they're actually not ripped, right? You can be ripped and still be a beginner. That, the beginner part is not experience level. The beginner part is your physical transformation. Your physical transformation can go a long way just focusing on the fundamentals and the basics. That's what I mean. When I say beginner, it's not like you're a nobody, you don't know anything about going to the gym or playing golf or something like that. It's not what's in here, it's what your body can handle. So if you can focus on the fundamentals and the basics as much as possible, and you can hold on to that for as long as possible, you're going to make progress with the least amount of work, which is obviously what you want to do. You never want to make more work for yourself. You never want to overcomplicate a simple situation. You want to make your fitness journey as simple and as easy as you possibly can. I know it's very easy to kind of fall out of it. It takes like one little thing, bada bing, bada boom, all of a sudden you stop working out because one little thing happened and it kind of ruins your fitness journey from there on out. So don't overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated. Hopefully you enjoyed today's podcast episode. If you did, hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow me on Instagram at MTEFit. If you have any questions, you can send them over my way on Instagram through direct message, and also follow me on TikTok at MTEFit. If you enjoyed this episode, I will see you guys in the next one, hopefully. Peace out.